The Supreme Court just upheld birthright citizenship, killing Trump's executive order to strip from kids born here to undocumented parents. Kate Lincoln-Goldfinch is an immigration attorney and CEO of Lincoln-Goldfinch Law in Austin, Texas, ground zero for some of the most aggressive enforcement tactics in the country. She's watching this fight from the front lines in the courtroom and in her clients' kitchens. Kate, thank you so much and welcome to the show. How are you doing? Are you staying hydrated?
Yeah, I got my water right here. It's been a long but happy day for once.
Yes. Well, look, I'm the daughter of a Mexican immigrant. My mother came to the United States in 1968. And the whole idea, first of all, tell folks, because I feel like we hear it in the background, tell folks the whole concept behind birthright citizenship.
Yeah, I mean, we've had birthright citizenship since the 1800s. I mean, this was to correct the idea that children born of slaves were not U.S. citizens, the Dred Scott decision. So birthright citizenship was written into the 14th Amendment of the Constitution, and it says anyone born in this country and subject to the jurisdiction thereof is a U.S. citizen. And there has been some Supreme Court review of that. There was a decision in the late 1800s about a man born in the U.S. to Chinese parents. His name was Wong and the Supreme Court reviewed the 14th Amendment in that case, and they said, you know what, this would create quite a mess for people of, parents of other nations if we were to do away with this. So let's keep it like it is, and we'll interpret the 14th Amendment the way that it is written. And Congress passed laws, and so there's just been centuries of build on this fundamental principle in this nation that when you are born here, you are a full-fledged citizen with all of the rights that come along with that, like voting. And of course, Trump doesn't respect a lot of history and constitutional rights. And on the first day of his second term in office, he issued an executive order doing away with the idea of birthright citizenship and just actually trying to change the Constitution with a memo. And it's been a bit of a nail biter all this time. I mean, when the executive order first came out, it was almost a joke, It was like, surely this can't be. But then the Supreme Court granted cert on this case and heard oral arguments, and just the fact that we even found ourselves in the place of wondering how the Supreme Court was going to decide on this, and that it wasn't a 9-0 decision is concerning. But at the end of the day, our democracy, our Constitution is intact on this issue for one more day at least.
Yeah, no kidding. And you're right. There are 3 justices that, So tell us what this actually changes for families right now versus what was already settled law.
So nothing has changed. So immediately the executive order was blocked. And so it never went into effect. So essentially all along, babies who are born here have been issued birth certificates and they're able to get passports as they want. And there hasn't been a lot of, shenanigans around that. And so this will just continue, and it will settle the question almost once and for all. I mean, there is no appeal of a Supreme Court decision. So this is done. The court case on this question is done. And so it would require a constitutional amendment. I mean, 5 of the justices said that this order violated the 14th Amendment of the Constitution. Kavanaugh concurred, and he said, I don't actually think this violates the Constitution, but I think it violates congressional statute. And so he almost wrote a roadmap to Congress about how they could update the statute. And so is that in the cards? Is that on the table? I don't know. I mean, maybe, but there are still 5 justices who said this violates the Constitution. And so I also Congress would have to agree, right, if they were to pass a law about this, which wouldn't happen. So to me, it feels very settled. And of course, as we all know, there's plenty of other things we need to be dealing with and worrying about right now. But I'm not going to be spending time worrying about birthright citizenship going away anymore.
And that's, as you mentioned, you have a lot to focus on. So, is this right? Nearly 30% of immigration arrests go through local police deputized as ICE in Texas?
I had not heard that figure. I can tell you that in my practice, and I do a lot of these cases, I've had hundreds of these cases over the last several months, I would say it's closer to 60 to 70% of the people that we represent who are detained were picked up at traffic stops. by state troopers or some local or county sheriffs. So very, very many of them. And this is something that I keep, I've been shouting from the rooftops, because when we saw the raids happen in Chicago and the helicopter on top of the apartment building and what happened in Minneapolis, I mean, that was so loud and splashy. And that was the Greg Bovino, Kristi Noem era of enforcement. And they've learned their lessons. I mean, one thing about Stephen Miller is he's evil, but he's smart. And now they've gone kind of underground, almost invisible in the enforcement, but they're detaining more people, separating more people from their kids. And the way that they're doing it is they're pulling people over in these pretextual traffic stops. We see, tinted windows, seatbelt violations, like license plate askew, and people will get pulled over. And I can tell you about 3 cases that I know about in Texas, people that I've actually talked to, whose children were left behind with the car or in the car. So they're pulling people over, taking them out of their cars, and in some cases leaving the children behind. I mean, it is abhorrent what is happening, but it's silent because, you don't see some big raid with some flash grenade and, smoke and protests and all of this, but it's happening on such a large scale. And we all need to absolutely be as outraged now as we were about Alex Preddy.
Absolutely. And I know that there were a lot of business owners in Texas, whether it was agriculture or construction, saying that it's hurting their businesses. And people who had voted for this were all of a sudden like, I can't keep my business going. Are you seeing a lot of that as well? Because people are afraid to go to work.
100%. Yeah, I mean, this is impacting all sectors. And you look at the TPS cancellation for Haitians. Most of these 350,000 Haitians are working in healthcare, care for the elderly, home healthcare, the construction industry. Enforcement is down. I talk to people every single day who have had employees picked up, many of them in legal status, who are painters, worked in fencing, worked in construction. People who can't get their visas to come here. DACA renewals are delayed such that dreamers are not able to maintain their jobs. And these are all, of course, people who are entrenched and rooted in this country and in our economy. And this is what's so different about Trump 2.0 is this interior enforcement where they really are going after people in legal immigration, and in legal immigration is what I'm saying, and people who have been here for years and years and years, and they've jobs and houses and children and established lives here. And we're not just talking about disruption at the border anymore. And it is really impacting our economy, and almost probably most people know someone who's been impacted at this point. And my fervent hope is that we will have free and fair elections in November, and that all of this will matter to us enough to get out and vote, because it's really critical. I just can't stomach the thought of it going in the same trajectory at the same pace that it has been over the last year and a half through the end of this term, without Congress stepping in.
Yeah, I agree. For someone in our audience who has a family member or perhaps themselves who is undocumented, what's the single most useful thing they should know right now?
Okay, the number one thing I want people to know right now is about expedited removal. And I say this word and people stop paying attention. My videos on expedited removal flop. But what I want people to know is that the D.C. Appellate Court, the circuit court over the D.C. federal court, just overturned a ruling from the lower federal court allowing what's called expanded expedited removal. What does that mean? That means that now DHS can deport anybody without a hearing, without due process, as long as that person can't prove that they've been here for longer than 2 years. And proving it is undefined. How much time you have to prove it is undefined. And so that means every single person who is undocumented or in some process to become documented who's been here longer than 2 years today needs to collect all the evidence of your physical presence in this country, have it saved somewhere safe, and take pictures of every document so you have it on your phone and at the ready should you get picked up, because that's the only way you're going to be able to stop a fast track deportation. And this is brand new. This is as of, I think, maybe last Thursday. And so we haven't seen it go into action yet, but you're going to start to see people pulled over, picked up, and gone from this country within hours.
Wow.
If they don't have this evidence on them.
And I don't know if I'm guessing you've seen the story about how people who were sent to Venezuela, over 100 of them are now missing in the rubble of a hotel that collapsed in the earthquake. So I want to say this. I want to say this to you. Thank you so much for the work that you do. Thank you for working so hard for people who have last names like mine and look like my mother. And many others. So thank you so much. I hope you're taking care of yourself. I tell people to make sure you're staying hydrated. But I would really appreciate having the opportunity to talk to you again. But thank you so much. I know that this is your career, but it also strikes me of how passionate you are to make sure that people know their rights and you want them to do well and not be in this situation. So thank you.
Thank you for having me on. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. We'll talk to you again. Have a good night. Again, our guest was Kate Lincoln-Goldfinch. She's the CEO of Lincoln Goldfinch Law in Austin, Texas.